Hey everyone. Not really sure where to start with this. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to document my emotions, my feelings. My son, my oldest son, Caleb, is in the armed forces. I'm not gonna say what branch or what unit or anything like that. He's deployed in the conflict over near Iran. I don't know what country he's in. He's got a top secret clearance. He doesn't, specify some of the things that he does, but got a phone call just a few minutes ago with he had called his young wife who got with my ex-wife and was over there. They put it on speakerphone. They contacted me. I'm actually overseas working on a federal contract as well, but nowhere near that area of the world. And his unit got hit, and they got hit with a missile. Um, I don't know many of the details other than, I mean, it was close enough where it blew up all their equipment and blew up his cell phone. Uh, he was more concerned with his cell phone and not being able to communicate to let everybody know that he's okay. But I mean, that's like the least of our concerns, as a parent. So, as a parent, it really, at first, was like when I didn't process and think about it because I'm a guy who's been deployed for 8 years from, 3+ years in Afghanistan to a few years in Haiti, then West Africa, Liberia, been to Jordan, India, all those countries and post-conflict or conflict nations and in war zones. And, I never thought about the unknown side of that. And honestly, what he was doing, I was thinking, oh, he's going to be okay. He's a believer and God has him and I have him in prayer groups and we pray for him and stuff like that. But reality is some things are out of your control and you have to have faith and you have to believe and you have to know that there's a higher being and there's a purpose for everybody on this earth and you have to truly believe in that and yeah, I believe in the mission. I believe that Iran was a superpower of terrorism and probably the world's worst terrorist organization or funder of other terrorist networks and proxies around the Middle East that's created the most instability in my 50 years on this earth. I've heard nothing but bad things about Iran, even from the Iranians that fled to America, that were good people that didn't want anything to do with that regime. And now, we have a phenomenal leader, probably the greatest leader in U.S. history for sure, if not in the world, at getting rid of dictators and evil on this earth. And and people are like, "Oh, you don't have any skin in the game. You can't talk about it." When I read a message like that this morning, it really bothered me to hear something like that from somebody. There are a lot of people who don't serve or did serve many, many years ago, or their children are serving, or they know somebody who serves. So they do have skin in the game. We're Americans. We have skin in the game. We're taxpayers. We have skin in the game. So when somebody says that, it's disheartening. I hate to hear that. But first and foremost, I'm grateful that he's okay. But I know there are people who may have lost their lives during these last 24 hours. I'm grateful to hear that their supreme leader was taken down and their top leadership. But this is just the beginning. In these type of situations, they're going to be a lot of missile shot, in the next 24, 48, 72 hours because when somebody's desperate and they don't want to be under anybody else's leadership, they want their dictatorship to keep going. What are they going to do? They're just going to use their arsenal, whatever they have left, and rape, rob, pillage, kill, whatever they have to do. That's what terrorists do. There's no logical thought process. So we have to completely knock them off the map and pray that we can get somebody in control there and the people uprise. This is when people should actually uprise, not this bullcrap protest we have going on in America, but I mean, really, truly uprise against evil and take them out. And we've created this situation where the Iranian people can do that. And it's going to be up to the younger generation in Iran to actually take heed and move forward and do that. And then you're going to see a different leadership regime step up, and then they're going to have support. And honestly, I never, as a guy who lived and worked in Afghanistan for years, I never thought that I would be able to say there would ever be a potential for peace in the Middle East. I truly, in my heart, believe potentially is there. I know there will always be conflict in places. We have conflict in America. But reality is they've been at war for thousands of years. And in my lifetime, the last 50 years, Iran has been the problem dating back way before, I was involved as an adult. But I remember in Afghanistan, initially they were the first group that pushed out the EFPs, explosively formed penetrators, that were greater in terrorism and destruction than any type of IED, vehicle-borne IED, body-borne IED. These things would thin metal plates and go straight through tanks, armored vehicles, and kill and destroy everything in sight. And that came from Iran. So that pushed from Iraq, it went to Afghanistan, and it became a terrorist tool. And, you date back, many years when Obama and his administration gave bundles of cash to Iran as like a payback, not a payback, but just to pay them off so they wouldn't attack. But in reality, behind the scenes, what was going on? All that money was used to fund proxy wars and organizations. I mean, it's Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen, and it's just there's so many little cells out there that it was used. So, and we funded that with taxpayers' dollars. If anybody should be outraged, it should be the American citizens. So when you see a president finally steps up and says enough of that, we don't negotiate with terrorists, evil regimes and dictators. So for me, I'm super proud. I have skin in the game. I've been in that region, and then I have, my son that's there. I'm super proud of the decisions that have been made by our commander in chief and the leadership to go after this evil dictatorship that creates instability and promotes death and destruction of any peaceful nation such as the United States. So there is only power and strength behind great military forces. You can't be diplomatic in everything. You can try, but when you have an evil dictator that doesn't think logically and is constantly threatening the United States up until probably the second they were killed, that's not a logical thought process. You can't really negotiate with someone like that. So the right thing happened and it had to be done. And thankfully, no matter what people think about Israel, Israel is probably one of our greatest allies as far as always consistently providing us with intelligence. They've intercepted many assassination attempts of Trump or other political figures in the United States or around the world. Um, if it wasn't for the coordinated effort between the two, we would not have found as great a success. I truly don't believe that. I just think they're right there. They have a vested interest as their nation there in the middle of a lot of Muslim nations that are I would say violent, and not every Muslim nation is like that. Because I've visited places where I never had any issues whatsoever, and have many friends that are Muslim from working 8+ years overseas with more than 85 national police forces, 85 different nations, working with the United Nations as a U.S. contingent commander in one nation, and just having seen a multitude of melting pot of different societies and different people. I can tell you not all Muslims are violent, but there are a group that is extreme. And it's just like we have some extremists in America as well. And anybody who's an extremist or anybody who openly chants death to America, death to the infidel, that's the one you got to worry about. Or if they have a history of that in their background, that's the one you need to worry about. So we need to remain vigilant and continue to support our troops, support our commander in chief and the top tier leadership. I couldn't be more grateful to a decisive president, one that doesn't sit back, one that actually acts, one that is more strategic than anybody could even fathom. I mean, it's not even when people say other people playing chess and he's playing, or other people playing checkers and he's playing chess. That doesn't even equate. I mean, there's got to be another game that Trump's playing that's way above and everybody else is right here. And it's not just him. Yeah, he's a great leader, but he surrounds himself with very intelligent people. And some people stay for a short period of time. And he's the type of of leader that will take what he needs from those people in the best interest of make America great again, and then move on to the next person. So once you get what you need, that's what leadership does. They constantly evolve. And as long as somebody's constantly changing and evolving, they're going to disrupt things. They're going to upset people. That's what great leaders do. And that's very important. A lot of people forget about that. When you talk about leadership, the one that stays stagnant, that doesn't do a damn thing, that's not really a leader. That's somebody managing a situation who holds the title and merely that's it. That's all they have. So for me, I'm just grateful, and I hope that other people look at the bigger picture here and continue to support our soldiers. And hopefully we can end this thing. But the next step, once the military side is over, and if the Iranian people rise up and take over, is to create stability, and that's when it becomes a policing mission that the police embed with the military. And I wrote a book all about this called Policing Without Borders: How to Mentor and Advise International Police Forces. It's something that I've done at the highest levels where nations are post conflict. And that's when the breaking point can happen. That's when either another evil dictator comes in because of the instability and they promise all these different things that are going to be great. And then in the end, they turn into this dictator. It's like pushing a socialist regime and everything's free, everybody's going to be taken care of. And then once you got everybody locked in, then you start dropping the hammer on them. And then you become the dictator, that evil ruler. And then by that time, they're already locked in. That's what happened with Iran. Listen to some of the people talk now that are coming forward that have been involved in this in the last 47 years in Iran, and what it was like before in the 70s. And then when the leadership came in, they pushed a socialist agenda like Mandami in New York City. There was one lady who said that from Iran. She's like, it's just like that. The exact same things. The speeches that he's making are identical to what was happening in the 1970s in Iran. And then what happened? Ooh, it transitioned from that socialist approach, everybody's equal, everybody gets everything, you don't have to worry about anything, to uh, evil dictatorship who took over, only took care of their people, and anybody else was killed or imprisoned. They say they killed in Iran anywhere from 30 to 50 plus thousand people that opposed them. That's an evil dictatorship. We've had many of those over the years, from Hitler to even in Haiti, you know, Baby Doc and Papa Doc, the dictators that ruled here 31 years, it killed over, I believe it was 30,000 people with a elite police unit, they called it, that kept everybody safe, and it was called the Tatamaku. And they just, anybody who opposed him, they kill them. So that's what they faced in Iran, and the people are celebrating in the streets and enthusiastic about life. The women are stripping off the burqas and throwing them in fires and burning them. But now they got to get serious. They got to step up because they're still part of that regime that exists. And if you don't eliminate that, somebody in that regime that wasn't taken out is going to step up and take back over. So I'm hoping that our military forces and the combined efforts of all the others in the Middle East come together. We eliminate their military presence that's been used for that evil regime in Iran for many years, and let the people rise up, and then let them have a free and fair election. And whoever gets in that position, we support them. And that's where the policing mission is going to come into play. You will see a policing mission, mark my word. It'll be a massive one. Check out my book. It'll tell you how to do that. Policing Without Borders, I already mentioned it. But it's not about selling a book. I just wanted to really express, when I got that call, it just, at first, I started crying a little bit, and I got on my knees and I prayed to God, and I was so grateful. I thanked a couple of people that had my son in their prayer groups. But then when reality hit in, I was like, okay, I know there's always a higher calling, but this is an opportunity for the first time in over 50 years or 47 plus years that we can end the evil superpower of terrorism for the world that's right there in the Middle East, Iran. Yeah, you have Yemen, you have all those other countries that are problems as well, but honestly, the superpower is Iran. And ending that evil dictatorship is not done yet. It's almost done. And it's only due to action, not inaction. So if you're a leader out there in the community, even at the local level, your inaction is the most dangerous thing. I teach leadership. I write books. I've written over 13 books now. Just had a new book called Built to Lead that came out on basic leadership principles. And I'm telling you, leadership is about action. It's not about putting on your blinders, looking past things. It's about doing what needs to be done. It's about taking ownership for the situation at hand. I don't care if you cause the situation as the top leader when you encounter something, especially in law enforcement leadership, you have to deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, it's going to continue to be a problem. And sometimes the leader that has to deal with it didn't cause it, but they take all the heat for it. I know that firsthand. But I'm just grateful that we have the strongest leader in the commander in chief and President Donald Trump right now. So you can disagree with the way he says things. You can disagree with a lot of things, but the man is on point. He's ending wars. He's ending regimes, evil dictatorships, terrorism, and he's a huge supporter of law enforcement and a man of God. Don't believe all the propaganda out there that's being pushed by Hollywood, the far left, all that other crap. But the reality is, we have a great commander in chief, and the actions speak louder than the words. And now you see what great leadership does. And if you look back, you see what poor leadership does, and it makes us weak. We are powerful again as a nation, but we are uniting with more nations around the world than we've ever united with. So God bless America. Love everybody. Please continue to pray for our soldiers and our police officers back home because there will be cells of terrorists or sympathizers of Iran that will rise up. And I promise you it's happening because I know I spoke to some officers and there are raids and different things going on right now in the United States. So pray for law enforcement and our military, and God bless everyone. Thank you.